Hey everybody, David from FlashByVCycle here. I got the IXIL exhaust here for my GSX8S. Same exhaust for the R, I'm guessing. I don't know that this will work on the Vstrom 800. You'd have to go to IXIL for that. I weighed it on my high calibrated bathroom scale and it weighed 11.2 pounds. I weighed the stock exhaust at 17 pounds for a weight loss of 5.8 pounds, so not too bad. The header is stainless steel. Has the narrowband O2 sensor bung in it, looks like in the same place as the stock one, so that should fit with no problem. This back section is definitely stainless and a bit on the heavy side. It had these DB killers installed. I was able to remove them, even though they give us this silly little tamper-proof screw that has the dot in the middle of it. They were not very tight. Came out with a pair of pliers quite easily. I'll test it first with the DB killers out. And then, like always, I'll throw the DB killers in, see how much of a difference it makes in sound and power. I'm guessing by their design that they will definitely reduce horsepower by a little bit. The other option would always be to run one in and one out. So we can check that, see how that works. Inside the pipe, a little different than most pipes because they're smaller. They really don't have the room for the long perforated core. I took a flashlight look down there, and there is a perforated core down there that brings it down into that packing material, and you can see the rivets that are holding that into place. So we'll see what this looks like on the bike, see how it runs. It did come with instructions and all the hardware needed to install it, so that's good because I've ordered a lot of exhausts that didn't even come with instructions, which is always kind of a pain. Taking off the stock exhaust was a little harder than for most simple naked bikes that I've worked on. Instead of having studs to hold these in place, it actually just has like an Allen head screw. So I'm not sure that that's going to be the easiest to put back on, but we'll see how it goes. So stay tuned. So here's what I'm talking about, and this is going to be true of any exhaust installing on a GSX8, is that there is these studs or bolts instead of studs. Like normally you'd have a stud going out of there and you would slip the header over that. Instead, you're going to have to line up the header and then put these bolts in. And this radiator, even with everything unbolted, is really in the way. So yeah, just be aware of that. You're likely going to have to take off the side pods, whatever they're called, and loosen the radiator to be able to install and remove an exhaust on this bike. So I got the exhaust on and it's all bolted up. I did in the end up completely, I had already unbolted the radiator, but I ended up pulling this line and draining it. It just was way easier getting to the bolts, like I was talking about in the previous video. I may end up at some point putting studs in there with nuts, just because I'll be taking off and removing a lot of exhaust from this bike. Really, it got a good sound. Sounds much like an MT-07, which I've always thought sounded good. Pipe matches well, the lines of the bike. I think it matches with the subframe pretty well. Looks decent. Sounds good, so let's get some dyno runs, get the dyno tuning started. We'll get some street tuning started in the next couple days and get this flash all wrapped up. So I do have to comment on the fit. I'll put a picture up. The spacing between the headers was not correct at first. Spoken to another person about the exhaust and they had the same issue. So instead of trying to separate them, it was too narrow. I actually bent them into place prior to ever trying to bolt it up, and I think that made a huge difference. I don't have any leaks at the head. It's fitting fine. I just used 2 pipes and spread them apart inside the header. Shouldn't have to do that, but that's what I had to do to make it fit, and now it does fit pretty well. Other than that, it bolted up pretty easily. The 2 mounting points work pretty well. So let's get some numbers on this beast. So this is what I'm talking about, where the spacing between the header pipes was not the same as stock. I took 2 pipes that were just a little bit smaller than each of the diameter of the header pipes, put them in each header pipe, and then just spread them with my hands and kept comparing to the stock pipe until I got the same spacing on them that I had on the stock ones. And that worked pretty well. So I won't assume that you've watched any of my other videos. this is what I got for the baseline runs on my GSX8. Made 78.8 horsepower with 57 foot-pounds of torque. You can see the curve is not great. There's some dips in it. Nothing to really write home about as far as the shape of the curve, but not a bad baseline to start with. Next, I'm showing the stock bike with the airbox mod that I came up with, which is just pulling the snorkels and pulling out the little foam filter. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, look at my other video for airbox mod. So after that, we had a much smoother curve and gained about a horsepower. The first testing I decided to do was with the IXIL exhaust with the DB killers installed. And you can see that's the blue line. The red line was with the stock exhaust, and it actually lost horsepower with the IXIL with the DB killers installed. So I removed those DB killers, threw them in the trash, and then did another run. And we can see, all right, not too bad here, right? Like, so it's only a horsepower gain on peak number, but it really holds on to the power a lot better. And we have some gains in the mid-range and the bottom end. And again, this is with no tuning. This is just the IXIL exhaust bolted up with the stock ECU. And this is the results of comparing the IXIL exhaust with the stock ECU, DB killers out, obviously, versus after my tuning. So I did my street tuning on it, did a bunch of data logging rides, put it back up on the dyno, finished everything off and dialed it in, and really some nice improvements. Almost 5 horsepower gain with the flash. Shape of the curve is better. Area under the curve is better. It's just better everywhere. So nice results. I'm real happy with it. On the street, the bike runs great. The exhaust works real well, gives a nice positive, really nice throttle response. Unfortunately, I bought a new 360 camera to have some great videos of me riding the bike on the street with some power wheelies and some run through some gears. And it was the first time using it, and I deleted all my footage when I went to edit it. So my future videos will have some from decent 360 footage of on the street. Unfortunately, this one's got none. So I decided this was a good time to check the sprint filter, see if we got any gains, and nothing groundbreaking, but like a half a horsepower through most of the rev range, and it got me my first 86 horsepower number. So for less than $100 filter, about what I would expect. Some gains, nothing crazy. So when we add it all up, this is where we're at. So this is comparing the all-stock baseline to where we're at now, and look at those gains. That is a 9% increase in peak number, but if we go just past peak on the stock, man, it's even more than that. That's a nice gains. Hold on to the power really well. It just killing it everywhere. And like I said, riding it on the street, it just is night and day better than it was stock. I did do some decibel readings. I got 72 decibels at idle and 111 decibels on the loudest on the run, and this was all with the DB killer out, because as I said, I'm not going to waste my time and test them with the DB killers in, since it makes less horsepower. Pretty happy with the exhaust, all in on this package. My flash, the exhaust, and the filter, you're right around $1,000 for this kind of gains and improvement on the dyno, and it just does not tell the whole story. The dynamics of the bike are completely different and just so much better and so much more fun to ride. So thanks guys for watching. Remember to hit that subscribe and like button. I got both the Akrapovic and the Arrow exhaust are headed on their way to me. They will be the next two I'm testing. Depends on which one gets here first, which I think is going to be the Arrow. Will be the next one I test. And then I'm just going to keep testing and developing parts for you guys, so you can have lots of information when you go to choose which exhaust you're going to purchase. You have the data to back up what you want. So thanks, guys.